Jackson, so we want to start with the first thing, and this is how you got started in IT.
The way I got started in IT was back in high school. I had a friend who told me about this program where they teach you computer technology, how to build PC from the ground up, and things like that. So you could become a PC support tech, desktop support, things like that. And basically they teach you like the curriculum for like the CompTIA A+, right?
Hmm.
So and at the end of the course, you take the A+. So, he was telling me about that. He was telling me about, IT and how much you can make a lot of money and things like that. And, right in, as you're going into IT, especially back then, right? So, in the back of my mind, like, I'm like, okay, I like the benefits that I'm hearing about this, but in the back of my mind, like I had my heart set on like, look, I want to be a video game designer. And I want
Hmm.
to, work in, and not video game designer, like programming and things like that. Like, but like I said, like the art aspect of it and things like that. I used to draw and things like that. So that's what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, kept that in the back of my mind, mentioned it to my parents, and they when they heard about that and all the benefits and everything and what making that money right away, they were like, they persuaded me to do it. They forced me to enter the program, which in hindsight, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, though, because because I looked at it like, okay, I'll go ahead, I'll enter this program, I'll do this thing, but I actually I'm gonna use it, and this is what I was thinking at the time. I'm gonna use it sort of as like a plan B, kind of like if anything happens or I don't make it or whatever, I'll do the IT thing. So I'll do both, So
Hmm.
I ended up getting into the program. It I did pretty well in there. It's I did. They had built my first PC back then, which was really cool. Learned a lot about IT. Learned a lot about computer technology. The great thing about the course is, at the end of the course, there was actually this opportunity to get a job in this local government office where I was at the time. Going through the program and after having gone through that, I was able to get I was lucky, blessed to have an opportunity to get my first job in IT. Right out the gate, and I got did the A+ curriculum, and soon as I got in there, um, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to kind of.
It's been a long time,
Yeah, it's been a long time. I was just trying to remember. So,
but you
so
that was your first certification and your first job, essentially.
correct. And I learned a lot there. And I started out doing, desktop support. We did, and like at this time, you got to remember, like I said, floppy disks were out. I worked on Windows NT 4.0. Windows 2000,
Old
Windows
school, man.
XP, you name it, old school. So I've been in the game for a while, and got a lot of good experience. We spent me and some of my other colleagues that were also in the program. A lot of them also joined in around the same time, and I also want to give a shout out to my professor. In the program, Mr. Sedano, he gave me the opportunity, he recommended me into the program. So I wouldn't be here in IT if it wasn't for that. So that job really kicked off a lot of great opportunities. So we get in there, doing a lot, learning a lot, and one of the things, initial things that we were doing were uh, we spent like a month in the summer making Cat 6 Ethernet cables in this hot attic in this old government building, in the attic with no AC. And you go through. I paid my dues. Like I went through the trenches. I went through all of that. And then the other thing was, initially, then I had a time where I was placed on the help desk, and at the time I hated it. Like I was just like, help desk, I got to pick up these calls, I got to do this and things like that. But in hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I learned so much on the help desk. That's where I learned how to troubleshoot, and that's why I learned how to troubleshoot and de-escalate, issues with customers, users, things like that. it's one thing where it's really tough to troubleshoot when you're not there. So like you have to learn how to get information out of the users and things like that, and figure out how to solve the problem. Remember back then, desktop support, remote desktop, it was out, but it wasn't very common. Not everybody was using it, especially on older networks and things like that, right? So there was no remoting in. It was like
What?
I
Ping?
gotta try.
What? This cable? What? Huh?
Yeah, you know what I mean? It was like, oh, I can't. Is it on? Is the power on? Things
Yeah.
like that. That's how you learn, to troubleshoot from the ground up and things like that. And you really learn and to communicate effectively with users, with people. So it was very, very useful in that regard. And I'm glad I did it. But yeah, and things like that. And, there'd be problems where it's like, I can't remote in. Was remoting in at the time. It wasn't very common, right? So, if there's a problem that I can't solve or I can't get into your machine to take a look at, hey, I'll reassign the ticket to send it to a field tech. They'll come over and take a look at it. So when I got back on the field and I'm on the field and everything, I had seen all these problems, heard of all these problems and things like that. There was a lot of things that were just easy to like resolve.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I saw that already. Oh, I did that already. Or the troubleshooting methods that I had developed while on the help desk, I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, this helped so much while being on the field. So definitely there was a lot of growth there. So I appreciate actually being on that on the
Starting
help
in
desk.
that role.
Exactly, starting on that role. And I was in there. I was doing kind of, so as I was working IT at that time. I was going to college. I was going to school
Hmm.
and working in IT at the time. And
So let me
half
see.
of the
You
day,
still were in the university
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you were working.
And I was working, so I was doing half the day at work, the first half, and the second half I would do my courses kind of like in the afternoon, evening. So like I would do half and half. And
You
it
have to do.
now, yeah, I know, right? I'm thinking back, I'm like, oh, it was crazy. Now it worked for like the first couple of years, but as I started hitting that junior, senior year, like I had to focus more on school and my thesis and things like
Hmm.
that. So I couldn't do both at that time anymore. I had to kind of leave the job, and I was still doing IT on the side. I was still
Okay.
doing little side jobs here and there, fixing, repairing PCs, things like that. But I took time out to focus more on school. So, I graduated, but like at the time when I graduated, it was really hard to find a job. So like I was caught out there, and a month passes and those school loans start coming in, right? So like I'm like, man, I gotta find work. I gotta get a job, right? So after some time, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to go back to what I know because I gotta pay these school loans, right? So went back to IT. So I went back to that same job
Hmm.
now as a contractor. So I'm back into another company as a contractor. Went back to that same job and doing pretty much the same thing, desktop support and things like that, just to try to pay the bills until I
Hmm.
could get back on my feet and get into my field. Get into my career, which is the 3D animation, video game design stuff. And so time is passing, years go by, and to be completely honest with you, I just got complacent. I got comfortable. Yes, I was moving up the ranks a little bit, and as a PC tech, level one, level two, level three, you know,
Hmm.
did little stints here and there, little light, system admin work, little light network troubleshooting, things like that, but nothing, deep or whatever. Still like kind of hybrid desktop support, things like that. Jumping from contract to contract, you know what I mean? And I realized, look, I'm at a point in my life as these years are going by, like, this is cool, but I'm gonna want a family. I'm gonna want to be able to support my family, and I still have to. And it wasn't quite, I still had a lot of these school loans where I'm like, I got to pay the bills. I'm not going to be able to do this and support a family, And I was making pretty okay money because I was working in Manhattan, in the city of New York City. You know what I mean at the time, and it was pretty good, but it just wouldn't have been enough, right? So
Hmm.
I'm just like, yeah, I got to do something, right? So I already had some friends And shout out to the friend that I mentioned earlier that back in high school, a friend from a long time since middle school, who told me about the program. Who's actually, I wouldn't be in IT today if it wasn't for him, because he's the one that told me about this, and that's how I got in there. So my friend Jeff, he was doing, he had his CCNA, CCMP, he was doing networking, and he was telling me, man, why don't you do networking, man, and stuff like that. But me, I'm sitting there like, oh man, I want to do, animation. I want to be a video game designer. I still wanted to do that. And, it was a struggle for a while, struggling to find work, to find a job in that field. I look back in hindsight, that was nobody else's fault but mine, because I feel like I didn't like I had to work on my demo reel to present, the work that I can do and things like that. But I just got lazy, man. I wasn't at the time, like I wasn't putting in the work, and I was okay with that stuff, but like I still needed a lot of polishing. I needed to develop my skills even more and things like that. I wasn't doing that over the years. I would get complacent. I've got this job as a PC tech, desktop support and things like that. It's helping to pay the bills a little bit. I'm surviving, and I was complacent. So, I was just like, I don't know, man. I'm just gonna keep doing this thing, right? And I just got to a point where I was just like, I can't keep, prolonging this even longer. I've kicked the can down the road, as much as I could. I need to start, getting my life together. So I was like, you know what? Okay, here's what I'll do. I'll use this networking thing kind of as a way to make some money, so that when I get into my field doing the animation and the video game design, then
Mm-hmm.
I'll be a little better. I'll have more time to, work on my demo reel and my stuff and my craft. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, where do I start? What do I do? And at this time, it's kind of like the traditional path for a lot of network engineers, right? He was like, well, I went and got my Net Plus. Go ahead and get your Net Plus. And it took a while before I came around too. I even had family telling me like, "Hey man, what are you doing? You gotta get." My sister's like, "Yeah, you gotta get, do something. Do what Jeff is doing," because she knows him too. Like I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go get my Net Plus, right? So then I get my Network Plus, the CompTIA Network Plus exam. I failed it on the first attempt. It was at I wasn't I was new to networking. I always had done, I know IT, I knew the basics, I know how to troubleshoot. Like if you're not able to reach the network or reach the internet or whatever, I have to go in, CMD, command prompt, and IP config, make sure you have an IP address, make sure it's on the right network, things like that. From desktop support, I knew those things, but I didn't really know the fundamentals of networking. So,
Okay.
it took a while for it, and this was self-study, got the Network Plus. Finally got it on the second attempt. But the thing about this is the turning point, right? So the moment I decided to go for the Net Plus, as I was studying and when I got it, that was the turning point. Like it, I was hooked. Like I got bit by the networking bug. Like I
Hmm.
from there, like it was no turning back. Like I fell in love with it. Like I was just like, no, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like this is what I want to do. Like I love this stuff. Like it's like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? I
How
just
how long did it take you? How long did it take you
to get
to
it
from like your friend talk to you and then you decide, okay, I'm going to do it, and then you pass like 1 year studying, two
a
years.
little under a year. I would say maybe like 7, 8 months ish.
Okay.
7, 8 months.
So it was like
Um,
he told you, and you're like, yeah, probably tomorrow, but it takes some time for you to like, okay,
Right,
I gotta
right,
do
yeah,
it, and then
yeah.
I'm going to do it.
It did. No, and like I was saying, like it took some time before I came around, because everybody was like, yeah, no. Once you get the networking, him and another friend, another mutual friend, he was like, yeah, man, he was doing system admin work, and he was like, yeah, man, why don't you get like us, man? We're they
You
were
you
doing much
already
better.
knew a little bit about the benefits.
Yeah, I
They were
did.
already. You were here, and they were doing like,
And they were, yeah, they were like, man, why don't you do? I was like, no, man, I want to do this video game design thing, man. I want to do, and the part of that too was that I'm not a quitter. Like I told myself, like, and it took a lot, like for me to graduate. When I graduated, I was like, I'm gonna follow through with this thing, and I was telling everybody, I was like, like I'm gonna do what it takes to get in this field, even though, interview after interview and, trying to find work and things like that. I didn't get that big break. I didn't get in and things like that. But I was like, I'm gonna keep working hard on my craft. I'm gonna keep doing this and stuff like that. I was not trying to quit. So like in that time, at that time, I still had the mindset like, I still want to do this thing. I still
My
want to do this.
passion. I have to
My
follow my
passion, my
passion.
dreams since I was a kid, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
my dream since I was a child. So, I was just like, I had to, and that's why in the beginning, like I was looking at it as like, yeah, I'll do this as kind of like just some way to make a little money, get to
Hmm.
buy me some more time, free up some more time, so that I can work on my craft and then try to get into my field that I want to get into. But after I took that Network Plus though, because he was like, "Yeah, get the book." And I think the author was Michael Myers. I can't remember exactly his name. It was this Network Plus book that a lot of people get to prepare for the exam. I read it, went through it. Studied and things like that. Didn't pass the first time. It's funny because it was that subnetting that got me, man. The first question was subnetting. Now I can do subnetting in my sleep, but at the time when I first ran into it, I
First
was just like,
time, you're,
yeah,
you're forgiven. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're a
yeah, I
CCA
can.
now, so you're
Oh
okay.
my god, yeah. And that was the first question. That was the first question on my first attempt at the Network Plus, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, why?" I must have spent like a half an hour on that question too. So like, I didn't even finish. Like I had like it took up so much of my time. So I was like, "Oh no, this stuff is it's real. Like I have to really lock in and go back and hit the drawing board and come back." But went
You got
back,
your Net Plus.
got my Net Plus, and then yeah, like I said, at that point I was all in. I was like, you know what? No, this is what I want to do. Like this is it. You know what I mean? So because of that, because of how like it had how I had developed with that, I was like, and and I knew, and I also was trying to break out into networking, get like a networking role and things like that. Excuse me, even at the job. And this is where I say it's like I'm looking for I'm applying for jobs and things like that as a network engineer to try to get that networking role. But then I'm starting to see it like, oh, everybody's like, oh, CCNA, oh, you got to get that CCNA. Even my friend was telling me like, no, you're gonna want to get that CCNA to really
That's the
and
next level.
that's the next level. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, okay, yeah, because it goes a little deeper, touches on a little more advanced networking a little bit.
Hmm.
I was like, okay, and that was all you had to tell me because I already loved this stuff. So I was just like, oh yeah, say no more. Like,
Okay.
all right, cool. So then I decided to go for my CCNA. So this is things get a little interesting because I was going to, and this is what I said, God works in mysterious ways because the way this was all orchestrated was crazy. So I went to go for my CCNA. I was gonna continue self-study. I was like, oh, well, I've been able to do this. I've had success. I've got my Net Plus and stuff like that. I'm gonna go for my CCNA. I don't want to do it on my own and stuff. So I'm at the gym and then I'm working out, and I run into an old friend of mine that used to work at that same place, the local government office, and the IT department, along with me, and all of that. And we also have a mutual friend who was he was one of the network guys, and I think at one point he was like a deputy commissioner of IT, and he was like that's my professor, that's my mentor. He always, it's funny how things come full circle, right? So I ran into my own friend at the gym and who used to work with me at
Mm-hmm.
the government office, and I'm telling him, we're catching up, and I'm like, yeah, man, I'm going for networking now, man. I think that's what I want to do. So I got my Net Plus. I'm going for my CCNA now, and he's like, oh, really? Oh, that's cool, man. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. And so he was like, if you're going for your CCNA, you're gonna want to go back and see Randy. So Randy is the name of my professor, my mentor, Randy Graves. Man, this guy, like, I wouldn't be the network engineer that I am today if it wasn't for him. He was like a drill sergeant, though, right? So, like, he was very tough, and like, it was it was not easy to take his courses. The thing about it is he used to try to teach us like in the training room, even back then, over 20 years ago. And, we were young and stuff. A lot of us that were the PC techs, he was trying to train us like, hey, you guys should get your CCNA. He was telling us from way back, go get your CCNA, you're going to be, then, go get your CCIE, CCNP, CCIE, and all of that. I'm telling you, the benefits are crazy. And this is back in the day where even the CCNA was well respected. CCNP, CCIE was like God mode. Like people were like, oh man, CCIE. You know what I mean? At the time, when people were like, this is when they were, buying cars, for you if you get your CCIE at some companies, like, they get you a sports car or something like that as soon as you get one. So like, we're like, yeah, that sounds great. But, at the time, like the mindset that I had, I'm just, I'm not worried about, I'm not serious about life at the time. You know what I mean? So he used to always train us. And I took the trainings. Like I had like a little, he used to show us network diagrams, things like that, how routers work, how routing works, tried to show it to us. Wasn't ready for that yet. But now, years later, I'd say about maybe 10 years later, 12 years, 13 years later, I run into, the coworker of mine who also knows him, and he didn't go for the networking either, but he's telling me like, if you want to do your CCNA, you're gonna want to go back to Randy, because he'll get you ready for that. But I was trying to avoid him like the plague. Like I wanted to do it on my own because I knew how it was gonna be when I went back to his classes. So I was just like, man, I was like, no, man, I'm good. I got my Net Plus. I could do it and all that. You know what I mean? So like at that point, like, I was just like, I had my mindset on, no, I'm going to try to do this on my own, self-study and stuff like that. Now, I may have been able, just thinking back in hindsight, I may have eventually passed the CCNA and everything, maybe struggled a little bit, but I don't think, just looking ahead, like, I don't think I would have been as sharp or understood the fundamentals as much if I didn't go through his course. So like, it just turned out like, one day, like I get a phone call from my coworker. I'm at work. And he's like, hey man, guess what? I got Randy on the phone because I'm trying to avoid him. He's like, yeah, man, he's going to start up a new session. Classes start, in January. This was like in December when I ran into him. He was like, yeah, he's got a new semester starting up and, and things like that. Like, hey man, you should join in. And I was just like, I don't know, man. I was trying to
You were trying to avoid him as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm telling you, to try to do it on my own because I knew what it was going to be. So I end up, I'm just like, all right, what am I going to do? Like, whatever. Like, I'll sign up. I'll join the
I'll start the training and let's see.
Yeah, start the training and then, get the CCNA and because I knew he knew what he was talking about. Solved a lot of problems at work. This guy is like solid, you know what I mean? And really, really, and so that's the thing. So I got into the course and like, that, like, just overall, like the way he teaches and breaks down the fundamentals and goes so deep, it's like, it's like in a way that, you know what I mean? Like I've never seen anybody do before. And I'm so glad, that I actually did, accept that offer and went in and took his training course. So, but the thing is, it came with a price because this guy is a drill sergeant. I'm telling you, like classes would start like 7 p.m., 6 p.m. In the evening on Friday evenings, right? So I'd come from work and I was working in the city and this was in like Long Island. I had to like take the train back and then, get into the class and classes would start around 6 p.m. Most of the time we weren't getting out of there till like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Because the thing is, yeah, I'm telling you, like it was a huge sacrifice. The reason why is because this guy, like, if he calls on you and you don't know the answer to the question, forget it. It's over. He's gonna stop and he's gonna like it, or if you say something crazy, like, or you say something like totally wrong, or even just slightly wrong, or you stumble a little bit and you go, he'll go, he'll ask you like, what can you tell me about art, right? And then like if you go, oh, so art, he's like, that's the end of the interview. So like it's just like stone cold, like because the way he conducted his courses, he's trying to prepare you for an interview. When you get out there in the real world, like he had great intentions behind it because, and that's the thing, like the class in the beginning of the semester, like class would start out with like 20 people or whatever, right? Like 15, 20 people. But by like the second week, it keep going down, like it'd be like 10 people, then eventually 5 people, 3 people, 2 people. He was tough. He was like, I'm telling you, think of like the toughest like coach that you ever like seen in life. I thank him for that because that really made me, the network engineer that I am today. But the thing about this guy is like, if he calls on you and you either take too long, like he'll be like, time's up, and he'll go to somebody else, and you just
You
like,
better be you better be
you
prepared.
better be prepared. And if you say the wrong thing, like he'll stop, and then like the class stops. Everybody else has to stop. Like, and we're standing at the whiteboard because like we're at the whiteboard with our marker, and he'll send you to go up, and then you have to like
Yeah.
write the lesson or write what the technology, the topic that we're doing or whatever. He'll send you to that whiteboard, and if you make a mistake or you say something crazy or he asks you a question you don't know, sometimes he'll be like, "Put the cap on the marker." You gotta put the cap on the marker. Then he's gonna take a 15-minute lecture to like, you see, you know what? They're gonna fire you. like it was so crazy. Like he gave you that dose of reality. Like this is real out here. You're gonna be in the hands, like as a network engineer. The network is gonna be in your hands. Like you could take down the entire East Coast. Like depending on the job that you have, if you make a mistake, you know what I mean. So you got to take this very seriously. He taught us to do that and taught us to be careful. And that was the thing that I loved from going through his course because it was like one of the things like two things that I took away from his courses that he taught us like to be careful to think before you speak, and that's carried that with me till today at work and everything. Like I don't just like jump in and say anything, right? Because you got to be careful in these meetings and in change windows, things like that, and also to never give an answer that you can't support. So like I carry those principles and those fundamentals to this day, and it's helped me, and it helped me to be successful. So like I enjoyed it though, and sometimes and it's like you don't want to upset them because sometimes it's like it'll be like it's something that like fundamentals that we should
But
get,
it's
but
very
it's
important.
yeah, it's very important, and it's hard when you're new, and then he'd be like, Dad, God, we're not putting a man on the moon here. Like this is CCNA. I'm trying to teach you CCNA. How are you gonna get CCNP and CCIE if you can't even get this stuff? But like it was crazy. But like I definitely appreciated that. So I went through his course and passed the CCNA on the first try. So
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like that it really helped. Like I like after taking that, like it was, and it just became easy. And that was the thing. Like he did like we had to like repetition. Like we would, if you get something wrong, like we could be learning, like you start from the beginning of networking. You could get to like routing and subnetting, right, and stuff like that. You get something wrong, oh, go back to all the way to the beginning. Go back to layer 2. Like you got to start all over again. Start the VLANs, things like that. Like and build back up, like in the same night. That's why we were getting out of there at 3, 4 in the morning sometimes because you got to start all over and then write it over again. I don't know if you ever seen The Simpsons where you have in the intro with Bart
Bart.
Simpson,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, the same thing over and over. That's how it was, man. But that helped to like
It
ingrain
made
it
it stick.
in your head. Yeah, it made it stick. So I
And then
really appreciate.
you got right to CCNP or what?
So yeah, so I got my CCNA, passed out on the first try, thank God. And where I was working at the time, like I was trying to break out, to be in the network group and be that network guy, right? So I'm thinking, oh, I got my CCNA. Hey guys, like I'm trying to get here. Like, I need a shot, I need an opportunity and things like that. But I didn't feel like, they saw the vision. I didn't feel like, at the time, I was still a little junior, still a little, when it came to networking and things like that, I was just looking for that opportunity and felt like I was being overlooked at the time. So I was like, you know what? Uh, I'll just go for my CCNP. Actually, the way that happened, because I got my CCNP the same year I got my CCNA. I got them in the same year. So I was just like, I was just on a mission. So I actually, and shout out to my friend Latif. He's actually one of the first CCIEs that I ever actually met in person. And he was a student of my professor, Randy Graves, that I'm telling you about. We actually came back. I came back to Randy's classes to meet Latif because he had just passed his CCIE recently. So I wanted to talk to him and learn from him and things like that. And I got to meet him, and it was really cool. And he was telling me, like, I was like, and I just passed my CCNA at this time, and I was just like, yeah, I just passed my CCNA. In my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna take a year to get used to this stuff and understand it more and stuff like that, and then I'll go for my CCNP, right? And he was like, why don't you just go for your CCNP now? He was like, just go for your CCNP right away. I was like, you could do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I didn't know, so because you're always hearing like, yeah, you get your CCNA, you get some experience, get your CCNP, and da. But he was like, no, just go directly for your CCNP. I was like, really? That's all I had to hear. So I was just like, okay. He was like, yeah, I mean, there's only a few things that, you're just going to go deeper on the stuff you already learned. You're going to have to learn about, policy-based routing, route filtering, route summarization, things like that are more advanced level, a little more advanced BGP, things like that. I was like, cool. And so I went through that. I went through the whole thing, man. And I just, I failed the CCNP route. And this is the time where CCNP was the 3 exams. It was the route, switch, T-shoot, right? So I went through that curriculum with routing and switching. Failed the route the first time. That was tough. I was just like, oh, man. But like I said, went back to the drawing board, went deeper, studied hard, passed it the next time. Then I passed the switch. Then I passed the T-shoot. I was on a mission. I was trying to prove myself. Got the CCNP. And then even then at the job, I still feel like they were like, yeah, and I was just like, man, I got to break out into more, networking role. I got to do this. So at this point now I'm starting to look and I'm like, you know what, I got to do this. I can't keep doing this hybrid, this desktop support thing. I got to move out. So now I'm looking and I'm doing my job search, job hunting and everything, and finally landed a role as a network administrator. Now, this is network administrator, but I was doing network engineering work. Like I was working on, core switches, routers, things like that, firewalls, all of that, like doing network engineering work, OSPF, MPLS, things like that. So like on the CE side of the MPLS, like I wasn't doing like MPLS, transport.
Yeah.
But it was the service provider that was taking care of. But I was doing like network engineering, best job. Like it was awesome. Like I was just like I learned so much on that job with coming in with the CCNP, and that's the thing. Like I had studied so much, and I had like taken the craft so seriously when I got in. Like if like the work kind of didn't feel too challenging, what I mean? Like I was just like, this isn't really, I was like, okay, like I could do this. I implemented so much there, and I thank my manager at the time, 90. He gave me a lot of room to grow. Like I learned so much. And I had a plan too, and thanks to Latif because he also helped me to help me with the preparing for the interview, things like that, and also gave me a track, like a plan to kind of be like the network engineer like at a job because I was the only network engineer. It was just me, no team, just I was the only network guy. So like that was my first straight network role, and I'm the only guy. So, I learned a lot quick. Like I'm on there and. He gave me a path to follow, and it was so he was like, all right, so what you're gonna want to do is, and this is what he did. He was like, you should get your CCDA, the design associate, and that he didn't have to sell that on me because I love design. I'm an artist, so like what I mean. Like I love network design as well. So like I
Okay.
fell in love with that. Like I was just like, because you're gonna need to know how to design a network, how enterprise networks are designed, the proper, design for them, 3-tier, collapse core if need be, things like that, how a data center. So I learned all of that, and also another thing, the Network Warrior book also helped a lot with that too. It kind of used that to kind of like, certain, tips and things to look out for as a network engineer, like, you know what I mean?
So
So
I want to interrupt you there because
no, no, no worries.
this is something very important, and this is a skill that many network engineers, they don't know that they need, and that's what actually sets the bar between a network engineer who's
Yeah.
just who's just a guy with the tools
Can hop on the keyboard
configure,
and
and the network engineer who looks at the network like
yeah,
from the
it's a
top,
whole, yeah, from
from
top
the
down, yeah, and that's what
from
I
top
learned,
down.
top down network design. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's you get, and we were talking about this, and I like the way you were saying, like I remember that I don't know if I did this network design,
Mm.
but I remember that Cisco had probably CCDP.
Yeah, yeah, and I wanted to get that one too, which I'm
Yeah,
gonna get in a little bit because I was preparing for that, so that was help. I felt like my skills were like as I was studying
yeah.
for that, my skills were growing and growing and getting better. I wanted the CCDP. I had gotten the CCDA just to show you guys, like I'm not, I'm not playing.
This
I'm
is
serious about this
for a
thing.
network engineer who wants to be like an architect.
Yeah,
That's a must.
CCTV. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a must.
actually, yeah, as a matter of fact. So
Yeah,
right here, you know what I mean?
yeah.
This is the
That's a
book.
must.
Love
That's
this book.
because I
Yeah.
noticed that when I'm talking to network engineers, even CCIE, like the capacity of looking at the network, like you're like when you can look through the walls, like okay, what's the problem? Is on that server on that rack, and in your mind, you're looking at the rack, you're looking at the topology, and you okay, I know what's the
Right.
problem. This capacity, this
Right.
skill is from design.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get from
Ah.
design, from the CCDA, from CCADP, and you
Mm.
mentioned that, and I like few only those who know about Cisco design path can talk about and have this architect skill.
Yes, from an architect perspective, like
Yeah,
yeah, this is how a network is properly built. And if
it's
you
not
see something,
configuration. It's not configuration. It's really design. Why we have enterprise? Why we have data center? Why we have these? It's man, that's gold. And yeah,
right?
man, I just
Yes,
had to bring that
exactly.
up.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and exactly, 100% correct. That's how I feel. That's how I look at it as well. And that's why I was like, oh, this is like the best thing. Like, oh, I'm glad you told me about this because like this, I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So, right? And a lot of people don't. You know what I
No,
mean?
no, they don't.
And
They don't.
right. And today, Cisco actually offers a design certification, the NSLED, that you can get for enterprise. And I think other tracks have a design certification as well. But if you're doing enterprise infrastructure, there is,
A
there's a
specific
specific
course
certification.
for design.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Which I recommend. I highly recommend everybody.
Yeah. If you want to become like network engineer with skills, capacity, like I would, I w- so CCDs guys, they won't say it's not the same thing. I would say like it's like having the CCDE level without becoming a
yeah.
CCDE.
Right.
Kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. Like I love network design. Maybe someday in the future, maybe I might go for that
Maybe. Who
CCD.
knows?
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I know how tough it is. I've heard how tough it is, and it's a
Yeah.
whole different ball game. But
Yeah. It's
maybe
just different things. Like the design thing, I believe that even those who know about the design skills that for some people might be required is that you don't have configuration. It's not like the routing and switching, like you have access to device. No, it's concepts.
right,
It's
right,
just
right.
theory. You okay, this is why we have this, this is why we need this, this is why we call it a data center infrastructure, this is why we call it a spine and leaf
Yeah.
architecture.
Yes. You hit on the key point. This is why we call it that. It
Yeah.
dealt with the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have these protocols, or you set it up this way?
Yeah.
Why do you make these type of connections from the access layer to the distribution layer? Why
Yeah.
don't you want to daisy chain access switches together? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Many people don't understand this, and I even talked with some person the other day, like, oh, I'm going to have this three-tier architecture, and he's looking at the equipments inside the rack, and I was like, that's not what makes like the architecture. That's not it. It's theory. It's not like if I'm going to put this switch on the top, this is going to be my core switch.
Yeah, like, you know
Um,
what I mean. That's not what makes. And yeah, and you just hit on something really critical there as well. Network diagrams, designing network and understanding network
yeah,
diagrams. Actually, and to kind of just bring it back to my professor, the first lesson that we do is how to build, how to create and interpret a network diagram. Like that's the first thing we do. Like you have to understand, like, okay, this is a router, this is a connection to another router, this is a LAN, this is a WAN. Where are your where are your networks, right? You have to understand that router interfaces lead to networks, right? Wherever I have a router interface on this diagram, that's where a network boundary is going to be. This is network one, this is network two, so on and so forth, right? So that's the first thing we learn. So like even then, the design and things like that were ingrained. So
yeah.
it's very important. Like that, it kind of takes you to the next level, right?
Okay,
So
so you got
yeah,
you got
yeah, no
you start
worries,
CCDA.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, CCDA, and I wanted to. So not only CCDA, and then the other thing that he also recommended was, get your CCNA security. And I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll go for that. Funny enough, like I think within like the first few weeks at this job, I was my boss was like, so yeah, by the way, so we're gonna need you to learn Cisco Firepower firewalls, and I was like, oh man, I was like, I've never like. I've used, I've dabbled a little bit with ASA firewalls, a little bit, and things like that. But like, I've never, worked with firepower firewalls and things like that. So I was just like, my network security, wasn't that strong at the time. So, I was just like, all right.
Bring
So
it in.
yeah, bring it on. So and within months, I was just like, well, this was kind of part of the plan, aligned with the plan anyway. So I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go for my CCNA security. Studied for it, and oh man, Keith Barker really helped on that. Like his courses, CBT nuggets, things like that. And just, I bought an ASA 5505, the green,
Small
small
one.
ASA.
I don't
Yeah,
have it here,
bought
but
that, doing my labs at home, VPNing from somewhere, doing all of that, and just really like trying to, hone those skills, and got my CCNA security, passed that on the first try. So, from there, because like in the beginning, like, I was stumbling a little bit, and I was, trying to learn, firepower and things like that. It was all new to me. But after I got the CCNA security, I realized like, oh, this is just a lot of the same of the old stuff, ASDM, because, I was using ASDM and stuff like that. I was just like, oh, this is just like, a more updated version. And
mm-hmm.
these, and then now I know the security concepts, the network security concepts and things like that, and the fundamentals. I'm like, this is so like I just took off like with the network security and
Mm.
administering and maintaining our firewalls, things like that. And also another certification that a lot of people don't think about, or that I don't talk about as much. Even before I had gotten that job, was the Meraki
Mm.
certification. So they have a different certification now, but at the time it was like the CMNO and CMNA. I got the CMNO, Cisco Meraki Network Operator, where you learn Meraki, and you learn how to configure things in Meraki VLANs, things like that, set up a network, and learn Meraki. That really helped, and I think that was also another thing that helped me a lot, and especially getting that job too, because they were heavy Meraki at that at that job, but they also had a data center. They had Nexus switches, Catalyst core switches, things like that. So Firepower firewalls and Meraki firewalls. So I got
Mm.
a real nice mix of experience there, and it was really great. Think about that job too, and just I'm kind of back. I'm moving back, going back a little bit when I in order to get that job. So the thing about it was tough because like as I was looking, right, so I found this job and I'm like, it's outside of New York. I had to leave New York, and I'm just like, I've been here all my life. I'm like, I don't want to leave here. I want to stay in the city and do this and that. But I had to go out of state, so I was just like, that was a tough decision to make. So that brings to a key point. Sometimes you have to make a move to seize an opportunity. So you might have to, move out of your comfort zone or go somewhere else in order to, be able
to get what you think you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I made that best decision I ever made. And I was struggling with it for a while too. I was going back and forth, and then I was talking to the recruiter. I was like, I don't know, man. And it was like, just try it. And then that's it. It's crazy. It ended up being the best thing ever. And that job, it was great because like I learned a lot on that job. So like, yes, I was strong on the networking fundamentals and things like that. I was doing well on the networking side, but it was also a learning experience because that first like standout network role, like strict network role,
yeah,
you learn. And the thing is, it was tough because I'm the only network engineer there. There was things that I learned that like I gained experience from, like proper planning for a change window. You know what I mean? Like creating a map, a method of procedure to like really plan out what am I going to do first, what am I going to do second, what am I going to do here, and things like that. Like fine tuning it and stuff like that, and also just knowing when to roll back. Because you run into that point where you get so like, because I've had a few occasions in the beginning, when I was fresh, I was just like, no, I want to figure it out, man. I think I'm going to figure it out. And it's 2 a.m. and you're like, oh, it's not working. You got to roll back.
Yes.
Yeah. So it teaches
it can't
you
be that way.
Right, exactly. So like I had the skills, CCNA, CCNP, and all of that, but there were certain things that like I had to learn on the job to hone those skills and be a little better at. Right. So like learning that those fundamentals, because I actually one time I was on a 25-hour maintenance window, 25 hours. Like it was crazy. And, I could go back and I could say, oh, I could, blame this, blame that. But in hindsight, like I said, it's a learning experience where, you realize like, at a certain point, like there are things that I could have done to prepare better to not have run into that situation. Right. So in hindsight, I kind of see that now looking back as a network engineer with more experience, kind of seeing that and learning that. And I think my manager, Nighty, because this guy stayed, it was 2 a.m. I called him over like, yeah, man, things are not working. We're trying to get this. He stayed to like reconfigure like the time on some thin clients that were on there, 2 a.m. It was really cool, man. And he believed in me and gave me that shot. He was like, look, we're past the rollback point. We're going to get through this and stuff like that. So he supported me on that. Thank him for that. So yeah.
Okay, that was great.
That experience. Yes. And then from there, working there, that's where I realized like, okay, I'm doing all of this. I'm doing good. But now,
CCIE?
I think I'm ready to go for that CCIE. So yeah, CCIE, man. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do it. And not only because like, okay, it seems like the next level to do it. My reasoning was like I was hungry for it. I was passionate for it. Like I said, I love this stuff. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to go deeper. You know what I mean? Like I was interested in it. So like that was the thing. So like that's what kind of caused me to like go on that journey and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do this.
And you decided like because normally people say I want to go for CCIE, and then like they take like 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah, right.
How long took it from the time like, okay, this is the time for me to take the CCIE, and I'm starting now?
Yeah, right. So kind of like a year, right? So my journey. So this is now I'm gonna kind of get into my journey with the CCIE. So when I made that decision, I was like, well, you know what? I'm doing the I enjoy, network design, and from what I've seen, like when I looked at the CCDP, I was like, they're talking about a lot of technologies that's on the CCIE. So I was just like, okay, you know what? I love network design, and I want to go deeper in that. But I feel like this approach may help to prep me for the CCIE. So I decided at the time to go for the CCDP, right? So I was like, okay, that'll be kind of like the precursor. I'll start there. And then, I'll try to see if maybe, after that, then I'll go for the CCIE. So I was studying, I was doing well. I was, and you know how it's tough with work to kind of balance that. Sometimes you're like, oh, I got work, I got to study. So it took a while. Now the problem is, by the time I was pretty much ready to take the CCDP, that's when the pandemic hit. That's when, yeah, February 2020, and and it wasn't really so much the pandemic. What it was the cert refresh, the Cisco cert
Yeah,
refresh.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so they retired it. So I was just like, when I was like when I finally felt like, oh, okay, I think I'm ready to take this thing. I was just like, I saw like, oh, it's, the cert is no longer going to be available. So I was just like, I'm not going to be quite ready to really take it before they retire it. So I was just like, all right, you know what? I'll just, I'll leave that alone. I still have the knowledge that I gleaned from taking it. Like I said, like this book right here, the CCDP book, Architect Designing for Cisco Network Architecture, the ARC book for the CCDP. Man, this one like
This is a
really,
must.
and yeah, right, and it made me better at my job too. And like I was just, I felt like I was getting a lot from it. So at that point, I was like, okay, well, I can't take the CCDP. I'm gonna go for the CCIE. So you know what? My journey starts now. So like March 2020, that's when my journey started, and this is how it went. I actually, and the thing is, I was kind of studying a little bit here and there to try to prepare for the CCIE. Remember, around that time, and you'll remember this, a lot of the material that was out was like material from routing and switching. Yeah, and it wasn't that great, right? Yeah, but I mean,
We didn't have anything. We didn't know. Okay, this is the new cert. They updated. How are we going to study SD1?
right.
How are we going to study
My gosh.
DNAC? Like,
Oh, and I'm gonna get to that too. Yeah, because that was a whole. That was tough. So I'm like, okay, and a lot of the material though was stuff from version 5.0, from the routing and switching 5.0. So
yeah,
that's what I was studying.
that's what we use. That's in
Right. That's what
2020. That's what everyone used.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what and a lot of the material that was out was just like the older material. And at this time, so I didn't, like, everybody used INE. I didn't, because they were going through a transition.
Yeah.
So like they were, updating their stuff, and then everybody was trying to find, like, okay, what's the new, where's the new material? What's the new material that'll help us prepare for, this new CCIE enterprise infrastructure, since the name change now.
Yeah,
right?
the name changed, everything changed. Now you don't have 3 exams. Now you only have 2, and
exactly.
everything is new.
Man, yeah, SD-WAN, you got, automation, you got SD access. So like my thing, so I was like, all right, I could, just go full on and study for it, and then, and then go take it or whatever. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a little detour. I see they're coming out with this new Encore exam, right? So that's when it just came out. So on this Encore exam, they've got the SD-WAN, they've got SD access, they've got automation and things like that. They talk about that. That's those topics were new to me at the time. So
okay.
I was just like, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is, and this was also kind of a twofold strategy too, because I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to go take it.
Yeah, because you read a CCNP.
CCNP, I got grandfathered in to.
No, but you would have to take the written exam.
That's the thing. I didn't. When they rolled me over, I was eligible to go for the CCIE because I had a CCNP.
Oh.
So that was because with the new change that the Encore is now the written, and that's a CCNP exam. They said, you know what? If you have a CCNP, then you're already qualified to. If you already have a CCNP before the refresh, then you qualify to go take
Okay.
the lab exam.
I didn't know that
So
because
yes, because
I
I
was
think
already.
you was earlier. Yeah, you
Yeah,
already.
I took the written in 2019 because I wanted to
There
take the
you
exam in
go.
2020.
There you go. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So mine, it just got grandfathered in because I was
Okay.
CCNP at the time, and when they did the changeover, when they did
You
the
were
refresh,
already eligible
then
to
yeah,
take the lab
then they
exam.
said,
Okay.
okay, now you're
Okay.
eligible to take it, right? But the thing is, you know, that eligibility only lasted until my CCNP expired. So it was coming up to expire, I think 2021 or something like that.
Mm.
And I said to myself, I was like, I'm going to make a strategic move here. I'm going to go take the Encore, even though I don't have to. I'm going to go take that so I can become familiar with SD-WAN, SD access, automation, and things like that, and the new, topics that may be on the new CCIE. And not only that, that refresh is now going to allow me to extend my expiration
I
time
got it.
more
I
time
got
to
it.
prepare for the CCIE. So I was just like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I did. I got, I studied, I got that book, the CCNP, CCIE, official cert guide. I didn't get the physical at the time, like I was doing like, virtual, ebooks and things like that. Because, it was easy. It was in the pandemic. So I was just, at home doing that, studying for that. And then, so I studied for that.
You got
for
the Encore?
2 months, got the Encore.
Okay.
First attempt, and I did really well on it. It surprised me too. I was just like, I didn't think I was gonna, but I had been consistently, studying and on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the only thing new was SDN and automation. Those were the only new things that you really had to understand. And at the Encore level, these topics, they don't go deeper. It's not as deep as you were to take like the SD-WAN exam or the DevNet exam. This is just, okay, you know what is Postman, and make this call, API calls, and that's it. You're good to go. Go take your lab.
Exactly. And that's what it was, right? But I was okay with that at the time too, because I was just like, well, I don't really know anything about it. So at that time, so I was just like, you know what, this will be beneficial to me to, at least get familiar with it, right?
Yeah.
And then, as I'm going on my journey and preparing for the lab, I'll pick up more and I'll go deeper, right? So that was my plan. Did that, and it was working out. And after I passed that exam, and I was like, okay, now it's time to go for the lab. Now it's game time. Now it's, you know what I mean? First thing I did, as because I'm telling you, I was in those forums. I was checking things out. I'm online trying to figure out like what's the best way to approach this. What do you do? Things like that. And one of the things that I saw a lot of people saying was, hey, go get that. There's this. I can't remember exactly the title. I have the book. I can't know exactly where it is, but it's like this black and green cover. It's like the non-technical guide to preparing for the CCIE that everybody gets. I can't remember exactly the title off the top of my head, but it kind of prepares you like this is and kind of gives you this dose of reality like, this is it's gonna be tough. You're gonna have to talk to your family first. You're gonna have to get them to buy in. You're gonna have to sacrifice a lot of time. You're not gonna have a lot of time, and you're gonna have to and you might fail, like a lot of people. They fail, the first attempt and stuff like that. So it gave you a lot of dose of reality and tips on how to kind of approach the CCIE journey, right? So I read that in a few weeks over that summer. And then once I got my mind in the right place, that's when I actually started studying for the CCIE. So I did the official cert guide, routing and switching version 5.0, because that was the only one that was really out that was like really at a CCIE level. And that was authored by Narvik Kocharians and Peter Paluk. Awesome book, excellent book. Like I was just learning so much, and I was just like, oh, this is awesome, this is great. And the routing and switching TCI routing TCP/IP by Jeff Doyle. Oh my gosh, because everybody was talking about that. Hey, if you want to be a CCIE, you got to get this and stuff like that. I read it cover to cover, the volume 1 and volume 2. I read everything cover
Yeah.
to cover. Like I wasn't playing
I
in
would say
something.
like every CCIE have those books.
Right? Exactly. So I was just like, oh no, I'm gonna do what it takes. And I was interested in it. I wanted to do it. So yeah, went through those, read those, and then, after that, then everybody was telling me, look, if you want to become a CCIE, well, not everybody, but
Most of
I'm
them.
hearing people say,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people, they're like, you gotta go to Narvik's boot camps. And I don't know if you've heard of Narvik Kacharians, man, but this guy,
So I'm going to interrupt you. I had paid the training. My training to Narbik was already paid in January. In
oh,
January, I had paid the training
yeah, I paid to go take
before
it.
going to US. I was packing my
Oh,
bag because I saw COVID is coming. I said, China?
yeah,
COVID
yeah.
is coming. India? And I said, I
Yeah,
gotta go. I
yeah.
paid the training. I was like 1 week to take the plane and go to US. I had already paid the training to Narvik.
Oh
Just
man.
when I was about to buy the ticket, at the same day I was about to buy the ticket, Silesio can't become a CCIE now. Stop the word. That's the only man. That's for real. That's the only reason that I could not take the CCIE in 2020. Like, stop
Oh
everything. No planes allowed to leave the country. No travels allowed. Like, stop.
yeah.
So that
Yeah.
I had paid. My goal was to go to US, take the training with Narbik because some of his policies, like you can retake the training without
Oh
paying.
yeah. Oh yeah. And
So
he
I
means it.
wanted to stay like for some time with him, like living in his house. You
Yeah.
don't have to feed
Yeah.
me.
Yes. Yeah, right?
I'm going to be here. Don't worry. I just want to suck it all, and then I'm
You
going to
had it
take
all
the
planned
the
out.
exam. Yeah, yeah,
Right? That's what I'm saying. So like, yeah, that sucks, man. Like timing and sometimes it's timing, but you know what? Hey, everything all works out in the end anyway because you were able to get it, you were able to make it, so you're
said
good.
I can't
Yeah,
stop, won't stop, can't stop.
yeah, that's right. I'm telling you, that's the mentality,
Yeah,
man. It's almost out. I'm just
yeah.
gonna.
So you were preparing, but did you take the training from him?
Yeah, so yes, and I'm telling you, I was blessed enough that at that time when he was getting ready to take, he that's when he was doing virtual classes. So he
Yeah.
was doing it remote. He was doing the virtual classes and everything, 5-day boot camps. And man, I'm telling you, I got in there and it was everything everybody was saying. Like I was blown away. Like I was just like, man, like this guy is just, and I don't even know how he remembers all this stuff or how he even thinks of these labs and stuff like that. It really gets you to think like a CCIE. Like I was able to pass the lab today. I'll have to say, like Narvik played a huge role in
Mm-hmm.
that, like the mindset and just going deeper into the technology and the fundamentals and the protocols, like like I've never seen before. And Narvik is really cool, man. He's really approachable. Like I have his number. Like he's a great guy. He's like I consider him a friend of mine. Like really
Mm-hmm.
cool, man. And yeah, like and that's the thing too. I want to say this because I see that like sometimes online people are saying like, oh, I took Narvik's course, but he really focuses a lot on like nerd knobs, teaches you a lot of nerd knobs and things like that that you may use on the CCIE and stuff like that. But I think that they're not taking a step back and looking at the big picture. Like what he's teaching you is an approach and a way to like go deeper into the technology and cover the full spectrum and just like do it until like you've covered every surface, leave no stone unturned, and really understand it. Like, you know what I mean? And it's not about like, oh, I ran into the CCIE and like half of this stuff I may or may not be able to use or things like that, or this is like, real like going maybe deeper than I need to know. I'm telling you, it has a purpose. It like, and it's not just that the thing about Narvik is that he really clears up a lot of misconceptions because I've seen this too, and I've seen this with a lot of people where like they think they know, but it's like no, it doesn't quite work that way. And he has this thing where he says, if I can't show it to you, if I can't prove it to you, then I'm lying. You know what I mean? Like, he'll go and he'll show you, do the debug, do a packet capture. This is what's happening. This is what's actually, this is like DMVPN. Like, thank God I took his course, because like when I got to DMVPN, if I had to face it, and there was a point where I could do DMVPN off the top of my head in like 5 minutes. The DMVPN config, like it's nothing. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, choose your voice. You know what I mean? Like, it was nothing. And I was because of Narvik, like, he demystified a lot of things, like OSPF. Like, a lot of people think they know OSPF, but like, even in the class, like, there were other classmates. They were like, oh, the people think they know OSPF, like, and they're pretty, high level senior engineers in their at their job in their field and stuff. But you go through Narvik's course, you'll learn OSPF and BGP. Like, you think you know BGP, you got to go talk to Narvik. It's like, I'm telling you, like,
he knows his
really
craft.
goes deep. So I'm so glad I took that boot camp. And like you said, you get as long as it's the same version, you get the free retake. So like, I took it a couple of times, you know what I mean? And his workbooks, like, I'm telling you, I didn't get to do every single lab, but I did like the majority of
but
that.
it allowed you like to really gain some skills that were useful for the lab exam, and my hand is always beating.
Exactly. And that was the thing, you know what I mean? And you have to really tune in to realize, okay, pivot, like, what applies where, and how to, the point is really studying, really mastering the material, and knowing what fits where, you know what I mean? So I'll say that played a huge role. So took his course.
You took his course and then you went straight to the lab?
Didn't go straight to the lab, because there was actually, so this is funny, because it kind of deviated a little bit, because he actually, after his course, like, I was preparing and ready. This is where, at that point, that's where you're practicing labs, right? You're doing labs, you're trying to practice, you're doing his workbook, you're trying to practice to, get ready for the lab and everything. And, he threw a webinar, and, I joined the webinar. And there I met a former student of his, Jonathan, a friend of mine to today, who I'm so glad I ran into this guy, and he was actually one of Narvik's students who passed. So he passed his CCIE. So I'm like, oh man, I gotta get him on LinkedIn. I gotta talk to this guy and all of that. And then, so I speak to him, and man, this guy takes the time out of his day and everything. And he's in Europe, man. So like, his time difference, and he didn't have to do this, you know what I mean? So like, he took his time out to like, sit me down. And then, the thing that like, he really kind of opened up my eyes a little bit, because I was like, yeah, man. So it was tough, right? Because at this time, when I was getting ready to take it, this is when my wife was pregnant with our first child. So I'm like, man, I gotta take this thing now. Like, I gotta take this thing before my son is born, because it's gonna be real tough. Trying to study and trying to pass this thing, while I got a baby I gotta take care of. So I'm telling him all of this. I'm like, man, I gotta go take this. So he asked me, a couple questions. He's like, how's your SD-WAN? How comfortable are you with SD-WAN? How comfortable are you with SD access and stuff? And I was just like, I'm all right. So like that, he was like, listen, what I would do if I were you, take a couple times, like, get this book. Like, he told me, like, the SD-WAN official cert guide for the CCNP. I got that. The SD access official cert guide for the CCNP. Got that. He was like, read those books. He was like, because he told me about his journey, his story. He was like, he got wrecked on the first attempt. He went in there thinking he was gonna go in, but it takes a lot with this new version, with the new technologies and things like that. There's more that you're gonna have to kind of go into like a little deeper on certain things. So, I was just like, okay, all right. So like, I took his word for it. And thank God I did. That's the best thing I did. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna have to take a break, and so try to study. So with SD-WAN, luckily, you could at that time, you could kind of lab a little bit. We had, we also had, Narvik also had like an SD-WAN course after the the enterprise infrastructure route switch stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
like, working a little bit on that and following along these, whatever I could find. There was this one series and called Lab Minutes. Man, that right there really helped me prepare for SD-WAN. Lab Minutes, like if you're going for the CCIE, definitely check his videos out. And it's not just SD-WAN. This guy, I think his name is Meta. He does a
Yeah.
lot of like other technologies and things like that. Awesome. Like following his, like I rebuilt his labs and then redid it to really get familiar with it.
Yeah.
SD access, as you know, was a huge challenge. How are you going to practice SD access if you don't have, DNA Center, which is, now Catalyst Center? How are you going to, you don't have a Catalyst 9300 or, yeah, you can get a 3850 and things like that, but you have to get, and for the CCIE lab, like I still have this server. I had to go and buy a server, you know what I mean, to run, a lab on there and things like that. But I didn't have the resources to run, DNA Center at the time. So, like, you know what I mean? It was tough. But thank God around the time when I took it, and I think when you took it, you didn't have this, Cisco just had released the practice labs. So those CCIE practice labs, oh my gosh. I think I must have spent like over $650, like $700 just taking those labs. So it would be $50 to book a 4-hour session on those CCIE practice labs, which is really cool. And that's the thing. And you would get this topology, you'd configure. Some things would be configured a little bit, but most of it is kind of like from scratch. And they give you tasks. And the great thing about it is it got me familiar with the graphic of the GUI of the CCIE lab. And they talk about that on the page. They're like, this really prepares you, helps you get familiar with it and stuff like that. So that was great. So I was doing that. But I should have realized something was a little off at that time because as I was doing those practice labs, they were tough. Like for me, at least, they were hard. And, I wasn't able to complete them in time. So like I'm doing these things and, they really focused a lot more on the SD-WAN, SD access. There was some routing and switching in there, but a lot of the tasks that you got was SD-WAN, SD access and things like that, which was great to prepare you for the new CCIE, right? But even with that, like I should have realized like, hey, I'm not even getting like halfway through these most of the time. 4 hours are running out and I barely did anything, you know what I mean? So like I was progressively getting better, but it came to the point where I was doing that for a couple of months. And now I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to book my first CCIE lab, right? So now I'm like, okay, I see they got a mobile lab in New York City. And I'm like, oh, great. Like, I don't have to travel. Like, this is awesome. I get to go here and it's kind of like bring your own device, BYOD. You bring your laptop and a monitor, and they give you a USB flash drive with the lab environment in there. You boot up into that, and you go ahead and you take your lab, man. So first attempt, right? So I go in. Yeah, yeah, right. There I go into my first attempt, man. Oh, poor me. Little did I know, poor me, man. I thought I was gonna go in there, and then Jonathan tried to warn me. He was like, "Look, man, it's gonna be tough." And I was telling him, "I'm gonna go for that first attempt." It's not, it's
It's
gonna be
not what
tough.
you think.
It's not what you think, right? That's what it is. It's not what you think. And a lot of the material that I was studying for was stuff from the previous CCIE, the routing and switching, version 5.0, 5.1, whatever. And what I found was, and this is, not breaking NDA, what I found was a difference in the shift of the approach that Cisco took with it. What I found was that previously it seemed like there was a lot more, 007, corner case, crazy, like CCI things that you had to do. But this one is a little more focused, the newer version is a little more focused on things you do day to day. It's like, it's not so like, oh my gosh, like this weird scenario, so to speak. You'll have that, but like they'll also have a lot of like, hey, this is what a network engineer or CCIE level network engineer is doing, on a day-to-day stuff you use. You know what I mean? So like a lot of the other material focused a lot more on because it was just like everything was just like
it's already working. Something might be broken. So before you used to
Right.
have like the troubleshooting, I believe, right?
Yes, and they had the sections broken up.
Yeah,
Diag, config,
yeah,
T-shoot. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Oh, diag, T-shoot, config. You know
yeah.
what I mean, and things like that. This one is the design and then the config. Within the config, and then they say this on the site.
Well,
You
it's
have
it's it's not
troubleshooting.
config because it's a live network and
Right, not config. It's
not
operate.
config,
Yeah,
but it's a live
operate.
network, and
Yeah.
you will configure, you will troubleshoot, you will do things. You will do things.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly. That's why they call it the do module, right? Yeah. So
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Operate, optimize. You know what I mean?
So
Design.
if people who are listening or watching, don't expect like to get, I'm just going to configure. No, you will
Yeah.
configure and you do other stuff as well.
Yeah. And have
Okay.
some troubleshooting sprinkled in over like, oh man, something's not here and there. And you got to be able to
Yeah.
catch that. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, I got to fix this, or oh, if I configure this, then this might affect something else. You have to
Yeah.
be aware of that,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
all of these things that nothing can really prepare you for that, right? You gotta have to go see it. You have to go through it to
Yeah.
really experience that for yourself. So I get on there, man.
And
Design
you passed.
module. Yeah, I wish I could say that, right? That's what I was thinking. But and for me, it was just like I gotta get this. I gotta get this, man, because my son is gonna be born any day now, and I want to get this before that
Mm.
because I know it's gonna be tough to try to study and pass this thing with a
Yeah.
newborn baby, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm going through the design module. I'm like, okay, a lot of this familiar. Okay, I think I could do this. This is good. And I get to a point where it's just like I'm on a question for like 25 minutes, and I'm just like, man, I don't know, because the wording is crazy, and the answers, the selection is just like, which one is it? Like, this isn't this, kind of, classic Cisco, typical Cisco, right? But like, okay, there's a reason why this is CCIE level, right? So I'm just like, man, like, I thought I knew this, but like, I feel like maybe, and here's the other thing too, when you're preparing for the CCIE, make sure you just keep going back to review. Don't like keep going forward and forward and forward and learning new technologies, learning new things, and not going back to review. You're gonna forget everything that you did. It's like, oh, I'm doing like MPLS and BGP and layer 3 and all of this.
And now I know it. I don't have to look it back.
I know it.
Yeah.
But then, I forgot, layer 2, like certain things in layer 2 where it's like, CCIE level things, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, okay, you got to watch out for this, you got to watch out for that. But it's like, oh man, I haven't touched this in a while. My mind is so like concentrated on MPLS, BGP and all of this that, oh man, I forgot little details about this thing, right? So that happens. Like your brain will be like so focused on like, one area, you'll forget like, certain things that you knew, right? And that's what happened to me. Like, and then, so design, I'm just like, man, like this is crazy. And, you go to, you're at lunch, and shout out to the proctor, Ben NG, man. Really cool guy. He made it like, I was nervous and everything, but like he made it feel like, you didn't have to feel like, he was really cool, explained everything, and, made you feel like, a little more relaxed. Like he was a really cool guy, man, at the New York City Mobile Lab at the Cisco office in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just me and one other engineer and one other candidate. It's just the two of us, because this was kind of like pandemic was starting to die down around this time.
2022.
There wasn't that many people. Huh?
2022.
2022, exactly. And yeah, man, I'm like,
you failed.
Yeah, I was like, I'm talking to him, and I'm like, how do you think it's going? And stuff. And they're talking, and I think he was a Cisco employee or something like that as well. And he's talking, and he was like, yeah, so when I come back, I gotta come back and do this and take it again and da-da-da. And I'm sitting there, eating it. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, how do you think you did it? You don't want to, you don't think you might pass? Don't quit now. Don't give up now. He was like, oh no, I know I failed. He was like, no, there's no way I'm passing. Like, I know I failed. I was just like, wow, like, okay, I guess that's how it is. So like when we get back from lunch, he's like, wrapping his stuff up. I'm like, we're not even over yet. Like, what are you doing? Like, he's like, picking up his stuff and getting ready to go. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So I continue. Now I'm on the do module, right? Mm-hmm. And then Now I start to see what he's talking about. So like I get on there, I'm looking at the task. I'm like, oh, this is something I know how to do. I've done before. Like, this is okay. Dude, the first task I end up staying on there for like 45 minutes, something like that, struggling, trying to get it to work.
But it
And
was in
I'm
English, man.
yeah, like it wasn't even in English. And I was just like, what is going on? Why can't I get this thing to work? And I was just like, I can't believe this. Like, I was just like, oh, this is ridiculous. Like, I was just like, no way. And that's at the part, my heart started to sink. I was just like, I said, don't tell me, man. Really? I don't think I'm gonna pull this one out. As I kept going forward, and I was running into more roadblocks, and I was like, I'll do one thing here, and I'll get it. I was like, oh, yes, I got that. That's good. I know I'm gonna get points on that. And then I go to another thing, and I'm just like, what's going on? I'm drawing blanks. I'm like, I know this. What's going on? And then you know what I mean? And I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. So I get to a point at the first attempt where I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna do. I don't think I'm gonna pass this. At this point, let me try to do enough reconnaissance as I can to try to see what I need to, work on and stuff like that. So I start going through all the tasks, looking at it, like, okay, I need to know this, and I'm like, I could do this stuff. I could do this. Some of these I may need a little more work, but I could do this. So like, I take that back. I walk out of there. As you can guess, did not pass that first attempt. Did horrible. I looked at the score report like, dang, I
Horrible,
did
but
worse than I
required
thought.
experience.
Right? Yeah, it was an experience. So I did that, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take this back to the drawing board, and I'm not giving up here. I was like, you know what, I got to do this. And unfortunately, I was trying to get the next attempt before my son was born, but it just would have been, I wouldn't have been ready. It would have been too much. I was still dealing with work as well at the same time. So turns out, so my son was born. I was really happy about that. That was great. I took a parental leave at work and everything, and took the opportunity there to study, to try to go for that second attempt. So, reach that second attempt. So there's the second attempt. I get on there, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready now. I think, I've been labbing, practicing, looking at things that, I probably should have gone deeper on or reviewed before the first attempt or whatever. I'm getting on there. I'm doing all right. I'm doing well. I'm doing good, and I think I'm doing good. I'm getting. There's some things where I'm like, I don't remember this, or this is not working. Not sure why. Whatever. But I'm moving. I'm advancing more than the first attempt.
Yeah.
And I get to a point where it's like, okay, I'm only on this portion of the exam, and I'm like, wait a minute, like there's like 40 minutes left. I'm not gonna finish this exam.
On
So
time.
one thing I realized on that second attempt was speed. I
Oh,
didn't practice speed.
okay.
That's another thing. Not only do you need to know the material, like, really well, you need to do it fast. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be fast. You have to, because there's a lot that you have to do, and you got to be able to do it quickly, almost without even thinking about it. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you got to set this up. Okay, I know what I got to do here. You know what I mean? So that it was another thing that I didn't take into account. So I got to the point where I was just like, all right, I'm not gonna get this one either. And I'm looking at it, and I was upset, man, because I thought this was gonna be it. And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, and I'm looking at things, and I'm also looking at that SD-WAN and SD access, those tasks, and I'm like, yeah, there's something, because I finally made it to that point, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, on the second attempt. So I'm looking at, I'm like, maybe I still need to go deeper on this too. Because I was like, I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. So, all right, look, gotta go back to the drawing board. So, back to the drawing board after second attempt. As you can guess, didn't pass that one either.
Sorry.
Now, I did a little better, but not much. You looked at that score report, like, man, I'm not doing it. Failing the design module again too. I thought, like, at that time, at the second attempt, I was like, I thought I had that one, but like, I guess I don't know it like I thought I did.
Yeah.
So this, next time,
Third
I'm
attempt.
going deeper. Your third attempt, so before that, I'm preparing. I'm going diving deeper into the RFCs. I'm diving deeper into the CVDs, the Cisco validated designs, all of that, and really trying to understand and master the material, right? So, and practice speed. So like I'm doing that, I'm practicing, I'm trying to get things, trying to do timing myself. That's another thing you may want to do. time
Mm-hmm.
yourself when you're preparing for the lab, for the CCIE lab, right? So I'm doing all of that, and I'm like, okay, I think I got this. So now I spend more time now between the second and the third attempt, because I really wanted to prepare for this, and obviously I'm juggling work and a newborn baby at the same time, so it was tough. But I was like, I needed to, and I took a little break too before I got back on,
Mm-hmm.
back on the horse and tried to go for the third attempt and study. So I think maybe 5 months,
Mm.
5, 6 months, something like that, before going for the third attempt. So I went back, third attempt, and I'm doing better now. I'm breezing through the
It's going to be
design.
the one.
Yeah, I'm like, this is gonna be the one. This is it. Like I think I'm doing good.
I'm
Breezing
confident.
through. Yeah, I'm confident on this one. I'm going through it. And I'm like, okay, getting things to work. And I'm like, yes, all right. I know I'm getting points on that. I know I'm getting points on this. I'm doing this. And then, even with the SD WAN and SD access, it got me again. It bit me. It bit me again. And I was like, okay, I'm doing more. I'm getting more things done. I'm getting more things to work. But there's still some things that like I need to practice some more because they're not
Third
finished.
attempt.
You said that exactly. Now and automation, because now I finally get to the automation part. I'm looking at that. I'm like,
At each
okay,
attempt, you're improving.
yes,
You're
each
getting
attempt
closer.
was improving. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So I'm like, they're a little more serious about the automation than I thought. So I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board and really, kind of focus a little, go a little deeper on certain things and get this. So I was like, okay, we're gonna go a little deeper into Python, JSON, things like that. All right, all right. So now I'm
Fourth
like,
attempt.
look, yeah. So, and the thing is, that third attempt, then it almost didn't. The fourth attempt almost didn't happen. Like I got a call from my friend Jeff too. He was like, "Hey man, how'd it go?" And stuff like that. And he was like, "I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think this is for me." Like on the whole, like just taking the shuttle bus back to the airport. I'm just sitting there, like, I'm just like depressed. Like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I would do different on the next attempt. Like, I thought I had it. This time, thank God, I finally did pass the design module. Thankfully, I was like, oh, I finally passed that, but I got to fail on the do module. So I was just like, oh no, I thought I did everything right. I thought I had it, even though like there were some things that I didn't get to work, some
Hmm.
hosts that couldn't ping, and I was just like, why can't I? Like I thought I have. I'm looking and I'm like, the configs look right, everything looks right. Why isn't this working? So I was just frustrated, man, and I almost gave up. I almost gave up. He was like, nah, man, you got this, man. You could do this and things like that. My family supported me. And I gotta give thanks to my wife though, because it was tough because like I was focusing really, really heavily on the studying and the labbing and, not being able to make certain family events. And this is the sidebar too about that. Most people say, I sacrificed my weekends and didn't make family events and things like that. One thing I can say with me, and this probably was the reason why I probably took so many attempts. I didn't necessarily do that, even though I said, "Oh, I'm gonna sacrifice." Like I was still there was still some events where I was like, "Oh, I can't miss that. That's a family event. Oh, I gotta go. I gotta do this." I was like, "Oh, I can't miss this." So I'm doing that, or like, oh, I feel guilty. I'm like, "Oh, I gotta watch this movie with my wife." You know what I mean? It's been a while and stuff like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? But it's like there were times where I could have been a little more disciplined, right? And I think that kind of also kind of threw me off a little bit. And that's another point. Like, make sure you stick to that plan. Like, if you're
It
gonna do
has to
that,
be. The thing is that if you don't sacrifice that at once, it's going to be more painful. If you sacrifice in small bites, it's going to take longer.
right, right. Like in my
Okay.
case,
Yeah. So it's better if you
exactly.
just say, okay, honey, I'm gone. Just poof. Instead of, okay, I'm going to be like off for a while on Sunday, on a Saturday. It
right.
depends but what I hear from other guys as well is like, if you have to throw yourself into the cage or inside the
Yeah,
prison, and you keep
yeah,
the key with yourself
yeah.
and do that for a short period of time instead of not going full in and going like half in.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because
And that's
your
exactly,
mind has to be wired in a certain way in order
yes,
to only see everything from a CCIE mindset. Like you only have to think about the exam. You have to be in that
absolutely.
state.
Right. Yeah. And, most of the time I was there, but then, sometimes I'd get a little, I'd veer off a little bit, and you got to stick to the
Yeah,
plan,
yeah, yeah.
so I did, I did that. And finally was like, you know what? I'm going to
Fifth
go even
attempt,
deeper. The fourth
fourth. Okay,
attempt, fourth. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go a little deeper in the RFCs because obviously there may be some things that I'm just not understanding, right? Even
okay.
just like with the third attempt, and that seemed to help me. And I'm gonna do these practice labs, Narvik labs, things like that. And like I will say, like this is why another reason why I definitely commend salute to Narvik because like his workbook had everything you needed to pass that exam. It's just that you just have to know when to call on, the certain tools that you need or the things that you practice that you needed, you know what I mean, at the right time and know where it fits in. That's the other thing that you have to figure out on your own. So yeah, I'm labbing, I'm doing it, and now I'm timing myself and I'm getting faster. I'm getting
Hmm.
better. So like I finally reached the point and I'm like, you know what? This has got to be it, man. I don't know what's gonna happen after this because the last attempt, like, I don't even know what happened there.
Hmm.
But like, if I run into this situation again, I don't know. I don't even know, right? So going for the fourth attempt, and that's the thing. The first attempt was like, I just had to drive to to the office. The second, third, and fourth, I had to travel. Like
Hmm.
each time, this is $1,600 to take the exam, for the CCIE exam, and then you gotta, do flight, hotel.
Yeah.
So, this is an
Logistic is
investment.
getting expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was getting expensive. So I'm taking a hit financially, and I'm just like, it's kind of tough.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
got to that point where I was just like, I got to do this, man, because there was nothing stopping me from getting it. I don't know. I say that I may not have gone for another attempt, but I wasn't going to stop until I passed that thing. I wasn't going to stop until I passed it. So I was determined. Went in, fourth attempt, and man, everything was just okay until I went and sat down and I logged in and hit continue to start the exam because now I'm facing things that are new, that like variations that I'm like, oh, I didn't run into this, I wasn't prepared for this, like, oh man, this is new, and stuff like
They
that. And
had
I'm just like
updated the exam.
updated, yeah, and I was just like, oh, like like with like stuff that is just like totally like, and I'm just like, oh no, you got to be kidding me!
Not
Like I was
again.
like, no, don't do this to me now. Like I was hoping this was gonna be my shot. Like I had just like been able to hang in there with the other first three attempts, and then now it's like like this is even like I'm seeing things here that I never saw before, and I'm just like, and it's the same. It was the same version. It's just that they constantly update questions and things like that, and you're not gonna always get the same questions on each attempt and things like that. But like this one was like the most drastic I've seen it, and I was just like, dude, you got to be kidding me! Like I was like, oh, I came this far. Just I was just like, that's it. Well, I'm failing this one too. I'm
Yeah.
gonna fail it. That's it. There's no way. So I was just doing the best I could. But like I said, I over prepared them. So like I answered the best I could. I covered so much that there was somewhere I was like, I think it's this, but I'm not 100% sure, right? So I was just like, okay, all right, I'm moving along. So done with the design, get to the do section, and I'm going through that thing. I'm breezing through, and I'm just like, I'm not playing this time. I'm like, oh, I got past. And as I'm, knocking tasks out, I'm like, yeah, no, I know, I got that. I'm verifying, and that's the other thing too. The difference, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? That CCIE mindset, verify. Like just because you configured something doesn't mean that it's working right. Go and do your show commands. Make sure you're getting the right information. All of that, and like I had practiced the speed so much that I was able to go back and had time to kind of verify a lot of
Hmm.
things, but not too
Okay.
much time because you don't get a lot of time. It's
Yeah.
5 hours for that, module, and you got to do a whole lot. Did that, and I was able to finish. There was just one thing, like, so the problem that I ran into the third attempt, I was able to fix that. And on this attempt, I got that working. I was happy. I was like, I have to pass this time. Even though there was this one last thing that I had working on the third attempt that wasn't working on the fourth attempt, I was like, man, you got to be kidding me. What is it? Like, I thought, like, I know how to do this. Why is this not working or whatever? And then, like, after I, hit end the exam, I was done. I was kind of, because you know how in CCIE, you build your script and then you copy and paste your configs into the devices, right? And there's a couple of times too. You're gonna be nervous. You're gonna be under a lot of pressure. Please be careful not to paste the configs in the wrong device, because that happened to me a few times, and you gotta go back, undo it, paste the right config. So you gotta just practice that, like, to be accurate, to be correct. So I'm going through, I'm like, I know I had to get this right. And the exam is over by now. I'm going through my notepad, my configs, and I'm like, I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, I know, I must have got that one right. I was like, yeah, I know I got that one right. I know how that's supposed to be configured. That one had to be right, and I saw it work, so I know I got that. So I finally get to the problem, and I look, and I was like, a command. I forgot one command, and that's why it didn't work. I was like, well, it's too late now. So I was like, I hope that doesn't, but I'm like, I get home, I'm like, I'm praying, not home, I get to the hotel, praying, I'm like, I hope I got it, and the night, I sleep on it because I didn't get my score report till, overnight, 3:33 a.m. in the morning. I get up, I look at my phone in the morning, like, maybe 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, okay, got my score report. And usually what I do is like, what I've been doing is like, I get on, video chat with my family and stuff like that. Hey, let's do the big reveal. I don't know how I did this time. Hopefully I passed. And then I go to the site, right? And I log in to go see my score report. And then, like, I'm just like, I'm nervous. I'm like, oh man, I hope I pass. What I usually do is I scroll down to look at the bottom right of the screen where you see, whether you pass or fail, pass, fail, pass, fail. And then I go, and then and I didn't even realize there's like some new wording at the top left of the screen. But like I'm so bugged out. I didn't pay attention to that. I scroll down, I see pass, and I'm like, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. Like, dude, I was so excited. I must have woke up people in other hotel rooms on that hotel, man. Like, that's how excited I was. I was so happy, man.
Because the CCIE number is on the top.
The CCIE, there you go. See, that's why. And then I scrolled
This
down.
guy,
Like,
he wasn't the CCIE, really. Like,
I failed. I was like, how much you want to bet? Another fail again.
Yeah. You were preparing yourself for the failure. Like, it's going to be on the top. CCIEs, they know they should read on the at the top, not at the bottom.
Real CCIEs know that they should read at the top. But I go in there, man, and I'm like, oh man, at the top left it says, congratulations, your CCIE status is certified, and this your CCIE number, man. I saw that. I was like, wow, man, thank God. And it was an awesome feeling, man. And here I am. You know what I mean? It was just thank God. But I had to do it, man. I don't regret it. I don't regret any moment of it. Like, I would have done it the same way if I had to do it again. So
okay, just a quick recommendation for someone who wants to get into IT, who wants to start the career like yours. Like, what's going to be like a quick summary, a quick recommendation? Like, start doing this, because this is what I believe is going to prepare you to get this job, to get this level. Like, a real short, what's going to be your recommendation for someone who wants to get into IT?
Right. So here's what I would recommend. So if you want to get into IT, and this is my personal opinion, I would say start out with your CCNA. And I know, that triggers a lot of people, and like, when you see a lot of people online, you don't need to get the CCNA if you're doing cybersecurity or if you're doing cloud and all of this and that. But here's why I say that: because everything you're going to be doing in IT, is going to networking is going to be a part of that. It relies on networking in some fashion or the other, some way or the other. I would I would recommend you understanding the fundamentals. Get the fundamentals of networking. Yeah, study your craft, study what you want to do. If you want to do cybersecurity, get into start learning about that. You want to do cloud or automation, start learning about that. But the reason why I say the CCNA is because it's going to give you certain fundamentals and understanding about networking that you're going to run into as you're doing whatever job you're going to be doing, cybersecurity, cloud, whatever. It's all going to be related, and the better you are at understanding networking, the better it's going to help you troubleshoot your stuff. You can rule out the networking, like, okay, it's not a network issue, it's something with I don't know, it could be a cloud thing, the something in the cloud, right? Or something is being blocked somewhere, or or whatever the case may be. Some application may not be responding to a certain port or something like that, right? And the reason why I say that is because I've run into this. I've run into where you have guys in IT, and it could be whether they're developers or working with building applications, things like that, DevOps, things like that, cloud engineers and things like that. And they'll be like, we're troubleshooting an issue, and as always, they're going to contact the network guy. It's always look at the network first, right? And sometimes it's not always the network guys. So
90% of
but
the time, it's not.
90% of the time, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
100% of the time. But so they come to the network guy, and you're troubleshooting things, and it's like, oh, like for example, like, oh, we're getting an HTTP 403 error code. Can you check the firewall? Is it blocking something? And you're like, but you got to know the HTTP codes. Like, if you're getting a message back from the server, that means the server is responding back to you. It's not that something is being blocked. And 403, that's authentication or authorization, right? So the server is telling you, like, I'm not going to fulfill your request because of this issue, right? So you're communicating with the server. So the point is, like, these are some of the things that you could quickly identify if you're working in your craft in your respective field, and if some of the basics of networking and things like that, you can kind of point out, okay, I know it's not the firewall because I'm getting a message back from the server. Or like cloud, like, oh, the VPN, it's not coming up or whatever, things like that. You want to, do I have a route? Do I have the right encryption suite? The right encryption protocols are being negotiated between this Azure or AWS gateway and my on-prem device, right? Things like that. So that's why I say that.
So CCNA should be the foundation and the first step if you want to get into IT. Okay, Jackson, thanks for taking the time, and I hope to have you on the show for the next one.